Only thing I want is justice. I never imagined this. I never imagined my daughter not meeting my father.
Kat was our legend. I keep thinking about when all she did was go to the supermarket. 20 minutes. It was gone. 20 minutes, she was dead.
I don't even know how we here in this country doing the same stuff we doing. Nobody should have to live like this.
You gotta hit them in their pocket because that's all they care.
It's all about money.
It's money.
Doing something most of us do all the time, right? Just picking up some groceries. Those are the families of the horrific Buffalo shooting massacre at a press conference earlier today, announcing a lawsuit against social media platforms, arguing that they facilitated the shooter's white supremacist radicalization. This Sunday, Mother's Day, marks 1 year since a man walked into a supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood, killing 10 people, wounding 3 more with an assault rifle. The 144-page lawsuit from survivor Letitia Rogers and 3 of the victims' families was filed in New York State Court on Friday. The complaint names Facebook parent company Meta, Twitch owner Amazon, Google parent Alphabet, which owns YouTube, and Snapchat, the owner of Snap, as well as Discord, Reddit, and hate-filled website 4chan. Also named are a body armor manufacturer, a firearms store, a gun accessory manufacturer, and the shooter's parents. A lawyer representing the plaintiffs in a statement says this, quote, "This horrible crime was neither an accident nor a coincidence, but rather the foreseeable result of social media companies' intentional decision to maximize user engagement over public safety." Joining our conversation, NYU law professor and a former clerk to Judge Sonia Sotomayor, Melissa Murray. The Rev, Mara, and Heilman are all still with us. Melissa, take us through the law on this. What are the legal arguments that the families are making about the liability of all these companies?
Well, Nicole, they're actually relying on pretty traditional legal remedies here. It's a wrongful death suit, so they're essentially arguing that everyone who's named here, including those major companies, were negligent in causing the death of their loved ones. And what's actually really interesting to me is that although they're using a very traditional form of redress for victims of certain kinds of negligent episodes, they're actually focusing on the platforms and the way in which their algorithms direct certain content to users. So they argue that these platforms are not just services, they're essentially products, and they're products designed specifically to be addictive to certain personalities. And they talk about teenagers being especially susceptible to being groomed online for certain points of view. They talk about the rise of domestic terrorism online, and that these platforms are essentially creating a kind of product that fills people with hate and then inspires them to do these kinds of acts. And they're borrowing from the tobacco litigation of the 1990s, but they're also relying on more recent litigation, like, for example, the Supreme Court cases that the court heard just this term that talked about international acts of terrorism, but again, sued the companies, Google, Alphabet, Meta, on the ground that their algorithm directs individuals to certain kinds of content that makes them more likely to commit these kinds of violent crimes. So it really is a sort of traditional mode of litigation, but with a really modern twist, and one that shows that there's mounting pressure on these platforms to be more responsible in their content.
The conversation about the lawsuit is here. I know the grief is over here, and it's much, much, much greater than anything a lawsuit can avenge, but it is an important step. And I know you're in contact with all these families and hitting up there. Take us back to them and how they're doing.
I'm going up Sunday, speaking at 2 of the churches on Sunday, and some of the families will be there. I did 2 of the families' eulogies. It's hard. Yeah. I mean, how do you explain to yourself, particularly on Mother's Day, that your mother, I did the eulogy for Miss Whitfield, Vice President Harris was there. She won't be here this Mother's Day. It's the first Mother's Day they have without their loved one. Whether you're a child and the mother's there, or whether it was your mother. And all they did was, as she said, go to the supermarket. And this guy chose Top Supermarket because that was the only major supermarket in the black community. So he knew blacks would be there. And I think from what I understand of the lawsuit, which I think is wise, is they're saying that it wasn't like this guy was not writing things on social media that should have put a red flag up so that the people that are facilitating where he wrote didn't alert somebody, stop somebody. This guy basically had a manifesto and enacted what he said. And I think that it is very important what they're saying about a lawsuit. And there'll be other actions that many of us are going to talk about Sunday from Buffalo.
And thank you for bringing the story to our attention. I mean, Mara, it's not a technology reason why they don't do it. For child pornography, all of these, I don't know about 4chan, but all the other companies have technologies to see them, screen them, alert them, and do just that. It's a will. It's on the other side of the equation, right? The will.
It is the will. And of course, I want to be careful because victims of, child pornography have complained that their experiences have not been taken seriously by these companies either. These companies have resisted any kind of accountability whatsoever. And even though they serve as publishing platforms, they have not been treated as such yet by the law. At the same time, I think there's another layer here of extremism and racism and white supremacy and hatred and anti-Semitism simply not being taken seriously, as though it's a matter of the heart. Well,
or free speech, right?
Or free speech. Well, nobody is saying that you can't, the Klan can't march through Washington, D.C. They can. That's the First Amendment. That's why we're here. The First Amendment, great. Right. But when you essentially promote that ideology and you profit from it, first of all, it's disgusting and it's wrong. And secondly, if the American system of democracy and capitalism and the courts can hold you accountable for that, well, God bless, because it's not right and there should be consequences. So I just think that these families, I don't know what the legal case is here, but they have every right. And it reminds me in some ways of, families that go after the gun manufacturers.
Right.
Well, there are consequences. And so I think a lot of times American companies want to pretend like they are blameless, and they're not.